Hello, today is the 11th of March 2025. So I do have specific things I want to talk about in this video, but I feel like there was kind of so much in my mind and so many thoughts going on in the past few days that I don't think I can remember and recall all of them for this video. But I do know the main things and I'm going to talk about that. And I basically created a bit of a blip for myself, so I kind of fell into a bit of a hole the past few days. It wasn't super deep and dark and depressive, like it wasn't like unbearable, but it was kind of a hole where I was a bit anxious quite a lot of the time during the days, and there was certain thoughts that were very unpleasant, very negative, very powerless, and thoughts that felt like there's no proper answer to or solution for it. I'd say like there was this darker downfall, but then I kept regaining perspective. So the past 2 or 3 days were kind of the days where I kept regaining more and more perspective, and therefore I feel better and I've learned from whatever happened, which I'm going to talk about. But yeah, it's still not completely gone, still not completely over, I'd say, because the same thoughts still don't have a proper solution, but it's something I just kind of learned from and gained perspective from, so therefore I don't feel so down anymore. Yeah, so basically in my last video I already talked about some thoughts I think that were kind of beating me up. I don't fully remember, but basically a couple nights ago my sister Alana was basically feeding Akela, our dog, with her hands and then allowing Akela to lick off her fingers, and Dad saw it and immediately said, Alana, you're not supposed to do that, you know that's, you know, a rule in our house, you're not supposed to, yeah, I don't want you to do that anymore, that makes me go from 0 to 100 within seconds. And he just said it in like quite unfriendly way and unhelpful way and like demanding way and controlling way. So I just sat beside that and saw it happening, and Mom was there too. And then I basically just spoke up and I was like, you know, I don't remember fully what I said, but I think it was something like, it's not that big of a deal, or like, it's not that bad. I said things like that. And then he kept speaking like, yeah, but that makes me so angry, and like, this is a rule in our house for years already, and I don't like when I'm being disrespected and stuff like that. And I was like, look, Dad, it probably, you know, is stronger or scares you more because of your emetophobia. And then he was like, no, it's got nothing to do with my phobia, it's the fact that I'm being disrespected and stuff like that. And Alana just sat there and kind of like shook her head and was like, what the hell it was like going on, why is this such a kind of big deal? And yeah, I don't know, Mom spoke up at some point as well and was like, yeah, maybe we should kind of change the rules of the house a bit, or see if that still applies, or if it's really that bad and stuff. And then he got kind of angry at her, saying how like she always falls in his back or in front of us kids instead of going to him to talk to him properly about changing the rules. And I was like, oh my god, like this isn't a big thing. He made it a really big thing and catastrophized everything we then said. So to Mom he was like, yeah, you're falling in my back and you're not, you know, you always do this in front of the kids instead of talking to me. I was like, we didn't think that this needed to be talked about properly. It's just something that is a small thing, but you made it a big thing by like saying, you know, Alana shouldn't do that, instead of just like, it's saying it's fine, like maybe you don't like it and she doesn't have to lick your hands, but you know, it's Alana's body, it's Alana's hands. So another thing I said, for example, is like, she doesn't need to lick your hands, like Akela doesn't need to lick your hands, but like if Alana wants to do it, you know, it's her decision. And then he pointed out to me that I always speak up when it's got nothing to do with me, and I should learn better when to stay quiet and to know that I shouldn't get involved in that I'm making it, you know, worse than it needs to be, and that I'm gonna have problems with this for the rest of my life if I always speak up and say my opinion. And I was like, oh my god, you're making this such a big deal. And then he said, no, you guys are making it a big deal. And we were literally trying to just dim it all. Like, we were trying to be like, look, it doesn't really matter if Akila likes Alana's hands. Like, it's Alana's body, Alana's choice. She can wash her hands afterwards. Like, it wasn't actually that big of a deal. It's not like Akila was licking it for hours. It was like a few seconds. Just, you know, it's like, oh my god. But the way he spoke to Alana, and I knew in Alana's position, I would have wanted someone to stand up for me. And I don't know, I personally as well felt like that it wasn't kind of the way he said it, as if she should now be afraid of the next time, you know, Akila's licking her hands, because she's not allowed to do that. It felt very like he's kind of controlling her and not allowing her to make her own decisions if she wants to do that. Like, so I wanted to speak up for myself because I felt like something in front of me is happening that I don't like, and I want to do something about it. And I think that's okay. I think that, like, oftentimes it might be unhelpful. So what I can learn is like, okay, when is it helpful to speak up? When is it not so helpful to speak up? But I wanted to speak up for Alana because I saw in her eyes and in her position that she was being, you know, told to stop something which she was kind of innocent. She didn't mean any harm, and it's kind of her own decision. So I don't know, I wanted to speak up for her because I knew what it felt like. I also wanted to speak up for myself because I was like, okay, there's something happening that I don't agree with, I don't think that's right, and I'm in the middle of it, so I can say something so that, for example, next time it doesn't happen again, or he doesn't say things like that to me either. So to me, I thought it was the right thing to speak up because something was happening in front of my eyes that I don't like. And this is part of the Thrive program as well. It's like a question, would you speak up if a racist joke is being told in your presence? And my answer, you know, I was always like, if I wouldn't, then, you know, I'm not standing up for something. And okay, obviously sometimes it's unhelpful because then, you know, you might know the other person, they could totally dramatize it all and blame you and then come at you, you know, hit you with racist stuff or whatever. And other times though, it's the right thing to do because you're standing up for whoever the joke was being told to or whatever. So you're standing up for what you believe in and what you think is right. And that's basically what I did in that situation. And I know sometimes I do it and it's quite unhelpful. But in this situation, I honestly didn't think about the consequences, or that it could be such a big dramatic thing for him, and I didn't know that he would be affected by it so much, even though I often know when we say something to him, he, you know, gets angry and gets affected by it. But I was like, no, you know, I'm allowed to say something if I feel like that's not right, and I'm just standing up for what I believe in, and I'm doing what I think is right. And I didn't have any bad intentions. I wasn't like, I want to make this a big deal. I wasn't like, you know, he has to stop and I need to say this because this has to stop. I was just like, no, like there was something happening and I'd like to speak up. I'd like to say something about it. So I was kind of stepping in the power and control that I have over my experiences in my life and whatever. So I don't know, to me, if I would have just sat there, I would have felt like I needed to take on and just handle whatever was happening, and I'm not allowed to do anything about it, and it would feel like I'm really powerless and unable to do something about it. But the thing is, I wasn't. I was able to speak up and, you know, say this isn't right. So I think for me it was helpful that I saw I don't need to just take this and leave it and just handle it, but I could say something to stop it or to make it better for the future, whatever. I don't know, I didn't have bad intentions, that's my point. But basically, when Dad said those things and really made it a big deal and got really angry and then kind of like stormed out of the room and went into his office, and then afterwards I heard Mom going to him and they were kind of, you know, arguing or impatient with each other. I don't know, then Mom also said a comment like, yeah, it's not always helpful, Leona, when you say something. And I know it's not. I know often I am opinionated and I just say it and it might not be very helpful for anyone in that situation. But like a lot of the time, I don't know. Yeah, I don't have bad intentions with it. So anyways, basically, during that argument or whatever, I don't even know what to call it, that situation, I was pretty calm. The thing that hurt me the most is when he said, "You'll have problems with this for the rest of your life." He immediately catastrophized absolutely every single thing we said. I could see it clearly in front of my eyes. No matter what we said, he came back and completely catastrophized. Like, I truly mean it. I could see how he took every single thing we said and completely catastrophized it and made himself, therefore, feel really bad. But then later that evening, especially the next day, the next morning, that's when I started creating thoughts like, did I really do something so bad? Will I really have problems with this for the rest of my life? Is it really so unhelpful? Am I really making it all worse by speaking up? Like, is it really wrong of me? And did I now cause him to feel so much pain, or to, I don't know, did I cause him to react like that? And what I was mainly afraid of is that he would have a conversation with me in the next few days after that or whatever, telling me what I did wrong and what I should change about myself. So I was really kind of recreating the fear that I had in the past always, because in the past he really had like hour-long conversations with me about what I did wrong, and I was never like he always told me to sit down, to just listen to him. Whenever I tried to explain or defend myself, he said I'm not allowed to defend myself. So I had to sit there and listen to whatever he had to say about me, whatever horrible things he had to say. I just had to listen to it. And at the end of it, I always felt like I was torn and broken, and I hated him more and more. The more these things happened, the more my hatred for him built up, and at some point I broke apart from him. As his daughter, I didn't speak to him anymore for like over a year or something almost, and there was very, very little communication. So it made everything worse when he had those conversations with me, and they always scared me so much. I was like always afraid to wake up in the mornings and to face him in the house in case he would say something to me. They scared me because I always felt so powerless in them. I always felt like I couldn't do anything to help myself. Like I wasn't even allowed to do anything to help myself. I could see the way he was seeing me through his eyes, and it was horrible because I didn't want to be seen that way, and I didn't mean for any of that to happen the way it did and the way he perceived it. Like I was always like, no, that wasn't my intention. And I was going through such a hard time, and he just didn't make it better for me whatsoever, or easier at all. So basically, that's what I was actually afraid of, and that was my main focus. I was like really afraid that he was gonna, greet me in a bad mood in the morning, or not greet me at all, or that he was then gonna call me into his office and have a conversation with me, which basically he'd be the only one talking, and tell me everything I did wrong, and then I'd feel like I can't escape and I'm stuck in a cage and just kind of being tortured, because he'd always say things to me which were already my insecurities. I already always thought, am I a bad person? Am I blah, blah, blah? So I was always trying to live up to their expectations, mom and dad. So when he said, I'm basically doing everything wrong, I noticed, oh my God, I'm, for him, the most horrible. I'm not living up to his expectations and so on. And now obviously more and more I'm done living up to people's expectations, and I want to be my own person, decide what I want for myself. But still, when my parents are disappointed in me or tell me what I did wrong, I immediately take that on. So I was afraid if he would talk to me that I would immediately take everything on, believe everything, and then feel so shitty about myself, feel like I'm the worst, most horrible person ever, and I don't deserve to live anymore, or I don't want to live anymore. Like I was scared that I wouldn't be able to handle the emotions, that I wouldn't be able to cope with that. So yeah, that's what I was kind of brooding about. So I was kind of, thinking about that most of the time during the morning. So I created a lot of unhelpful thoughts. They didn't, the thoughts didn't help me to just thrive and be happy and know that I can handle everything. If I had powerful thoughts, if I had created powerful thoughts that were like, you can handle whatever is to come and so on, then I know that even if he would talk with me, you know, I'd survive, I'd handle it, I'll cope with it at some point, you know, I'll get over it all. I don't need to take it on. So if I would have had positive, helpful thoughts, if I would have created them, then I would have felt much more like I can handle this. The only reason I felt like I couldn't handle is because I created the thoughts that were like, you know, I don't know, I'm scared of this and blah, blah, blah. Then though, we greeted each other normal in the morning. He was actually in an okay mood. He was actually, yeah, laughing and smiling and stuff. So I felt a bit relieved. But I was still brooding about it. And then I was kind of beating myself up as well, being like, why are you brooding about this? Why aren't you just stopping? Like, it's, you know, it's unhelpful to brood about it. Why can't you just let it go? I was like telling myself, why can't you let it go? Like, I'm unable to. Instead, I could have probably asked, why aren't you letting it go? What are you afraid of? Why are you creating anxiety? What can you do about that? Those would have been more powerful thoughts. But yeah, basically then, because I was creating a lot of unhelpful thoughts, I just sat down in my room and I grabbed a sheet of paper and wrote things down. I can probably read some of it out. Oh yeah, so I basically wrote down some unhelpful thoughts that I had going on in my mind, and then writing it in a more positive or a more helpful way. Yeah, so another thing, I was noticing strongly that I was using the catastrophizing thinking style. So basically I was catastrophizing the argument. I was like being like, oh my god, it's all my fault and maybe I'm a really horrible person and give you know, always share my opinions, that makes everything worse and really unhelpful. And then I don't know, I've been noticing that I've been washing my hands more, or like staying away from certain things. So I was like, am I getting emetophobia? I was kind of creating those thoughts as well, like, am I getting emetophobia and stuff? And that thought now I haven't had in a couple of days because I stopped catastrophizing things and stuff. So then the helpful version was like, emetophobia is something I would create so I can stop it. I've been deciding to wash my hands more and can work on reducing it. Emetophobia is just a belief. And yeah, I have been deciding to wash my hands. So it's not like I have to wash my hands. It's not like anyone's forcing me to do so. I've been deciding to do so. So that kind of gave me the power back as well, being like, I can stop that too. And stuff like that. So yeah, so because I had this catastrophizing thinking style going on, I was basically, yeah, kind of catastrophizing any thought that was in my mind then. But yeah, after I had done that, I had felt a bit better, and then I asked myself, you know, what can I do to help myself? And I was like, I'd actually like to talk to Dad about this, the situation that had happened a bit, but then I was afraid that, you know, the whole thing was gonna blow up in my face and gonna make everything worse, and I was afraid to talk to him in case he would shout at me and not understand my side and blame me for everything. So I was quite afraid, but then I went into the living room, and because I was creating anxiety and had a lot of unhelpful thoughts that made me feel down, I just kind of started crying. I kind of wasn't able to stop the tears. I also got my period, so that means my emotions were definitely heightened, and they usually wouldn't be that strong, so I knew like my hormones were playing a part of it too. But actually he then noticed how, you know, I was kind of not doing great, so he asked what's going on and if I wanted to, you know, talk about anything. And then I actually did, and I started needing to like try and hold my tears in. I was like like kind of a shaky voice and stuff, and I was like about to burst into tears. But yeah, I kind of just started talking at how like I always kind of blame myself and tell myself I did something wrong and I'm a horrible person and it was my fault and stuff, and like that I did want to talk to Dad, but I'm a bit afraid because I don't want to say anything wrong, basically. Yeah, that's kind of how I started it. And then I just went on to explaining how you know, yesterday I didn't mean for any of that to, you know, blow out of proportion like that. I didn't mean for any of that to happen, and I didn't think what I said was, you know, so bad or someone was going to be affected by it so much. And we were talking, I don't know, for quite a while. Like I'd say at least half an hour, maybe even 45 minutes. I honestly don't know. I didn't look at the time, but I think about that length. And he basically just said like he's not blaming me and he didn't think I was a horrible person and stuff like that. But I do think he had those thoughts in that moment. But maybe he just, I don't know if it doesn't focus on it that much, but yeah, I don't know. I do think he does think about me in that way in those moments. At least he used to in the past, because he used to always blame me. But yeah, anyways, he basically said he's not blaming me and there's nothing I did wrong. He just said like that I often, you know, say something or leave comments or whatever, and that it's often like, I don't know, not helpful. And yeah, he was just focusing on how like judgments aren't very, you know, helpful, and that's, yeah. And then he was kind of catastrophizing that as well. He was like, yeah, that's how wars start, that's how, you know, people start fights, and that's kind of what makes everything worse, when you leave your judgments. Like being silent is often the best thing you can do and stuff. And I was like, yeah, it is true. And if it were a big situation where I'd see two people are fighting and I'd know like if I were to say something, you know, I would make things worse, or I could, or then they would include me or involve me in the fight, and that would, you know, not be good. So with big things like that, I would obviously beforehand think about, you know, would it be helpful to say something? Would that actually make anything better or not? So obviously before, if those things were happening, I'd obviously think about, you know, are these judgments good or not? And, you know, often I'd stay silent. Like the situation with Granny and Granddad and Mom and Dad, like that's a big proof that I often stay silent, because I know it's absolutely not helpful to say something. Other times I would say something because I'm either standing up for myself or for my family or for whatever I believe in to be true, and whatever I think might help the situation. If I think it doesn't help, then I usually wouldn't say something. Like often, yeah, there's might be small fights with me and my family or whatever, and then I'd say unhelpful stuff, because everyone does in arguments, it's not just me. So he was like complete kind of catastrophizing all of that as well, and I was trying to keep like dim it down and be like, yeah, okay, if I were in that big situation, obviously I think about what I say. But with these things, like, you know, he was kind of pointing out like, yeah, you should think about when you say something, you should think about if you should have said something in that situation yesterday. But to me, it was like a normal situation that anyone who would have seen that would just either say something or not. Anyone, you know, I was just kind of being myself. I was just saying whatever I thought. To me, it wasn't a situation where I was like, okay, I really need to think about if this is something I should say. To me, it was just like, okay, a situation happened where Dad said something to Alana, so I can say something there too. Like to me, it was really a normal conversation where I didn't need to think about, okay, you know, is this helpful? Is this gonna blow out of proportion? Like to me, it was a normal conversation, a normal situation basically. But to Dad, he kept saying how like, yeah, you should think about if you should say something. But I was like, I really didn't think about thinking about something. Like I didn't think I needed to think about something. It was just a normal thing for me. That's why I wasn't like, okay, should I say something or not? I was just standing up for what I believed in. And I didn't think it would blow so out of proportion, you know? I didn't think he would be so affected. Yeah, because he also said, you know, you never know how the other person takes it. So often it's more helpful to stay silent. I'm like, yeah, that's true. And just to point out, he was a very calm voice, and he was actually saying things in a friendly way. Like it was actually fine, the conversation. I didn't feel like I was wrong or I was being blamed. It was actually like a normal conversation between him and me, and he was listening to my side as well, and so on. So it was actually all fine, the conversation. But basically, yeah, he was saying you never know how the other person takes it, so you should be careful. And also, you know, it's not good to say something if you're solely doing it for yourself. And then I was like, okay, but basically I can't go around my day and my world being so careful about what I say in case I hurt other people, because I've lived like that for a while. And also, that would mean I am taking on responsibility for other people and for other people's emotions. And if I were to say something and it hurts the other person, of course I can feel sorry, and I would know the next time, okay, this hurts the other person, so I'd choose not to say it. Or I'd be like, okay, is this helpful to say it? But if I'm like, I can't be going around my day focusing on every single thing that I say and which might hurt another person. No one can live like that, and it's not the right way to live, because I'd be taking on responsibility for others' emotions. It's not my fault if I say something and the other person like takes it on and catastrophizes it and gets really hurt by it. Like, that's not my fault, because it's not the way I meant it. It's just, I said something, and it's not in my control the way other people take it on and feel about it. I can't control others' emotions. I am not in control of how they will react to it. This is something I learned through the Thrive program, because, which I also told Dad, I always took on the responsibility for others' emotions, especially my parents. I'd always blame myself. I'd always be like, I was the one who made them feel that way. But it's not. I can't make another person feel anything. If I say something, one person can react completely differently to the other person, to the exact same thing that I said, because it's in their beliefs, which create their thoughts and their emotions, which then therefore create their reactions. It's not what I said. It's about their beliefs, their reactions, their emotions, not about what I said. When me and Dad had that conversation, I realized this so strongly, because I had taken on Dad's emotions. I had taken on responsibility for them. I was like, he catastrophized everything. He's feeling bad because of me, because of something I said. Even though what I said, first of all, wasn't even that bad. So I also needed to see, look, I'm catastrophizing it. I didn't actually say anything that was so dramatically bad. Another person wouldn't have even reacted at all to whatever I said, but Dad did, because he had catastrophizing thinking styles going on. It triggered something in him. He always thinks people are against him, people aren't respecting him, people are being mean to him, stabbing him in the back, like things like that. Those are his beliefs, and therefore he catastrophized these things. So it wasn't actually anything that I said or did that made him that way. It was his own beliefs about what I said. So then I noticed that, look, I didn't actually do anything wrong in that situation. I'm allowed to stand up for what I believe in. I'm allowed to speak up. It wouldn't be right for me to just sit back if I think something is happening that is wrong in front of my eyes. It wouldn't be right for me to just sit back and let it happen, not do anything about it. What I learned from all of this is to ask myself, okay, when is it helpful to speak up? When is it not so helpful? And obviously I'll do that if there's a really big, massive thing going on, out in the world. I wouldn't just simply say something, because that can be really unhelpful. I'd think about it, of course. In situations like these, it's like honestly not that big of a deal, and if he reacts so strongly, then that's in him. I didn't catastrophize things. Mom and Alana didn't catastrophize things. It was him. He catastrophized it all because it was his thinking style. That's a thinking style he uses very, very often. So, and very, very often, look, that's also catastrophized, but no, in this sense it's actually true. But I'm also realizing and noticing how I catastrophize a lot as well, but often because I feel strong emotions and then I think it's appropriate as well. But other times I just need to see and ask myself, look, is it actually that bad? Like, is it actually that bad that, you know, I'm the most horrible person ever? That's a question I also asked myself, and I realized, no, the situation, whatever I said, wasn't actually that bad. But yeah, basically my big learning from this whole conversation with the dad was that I took on responsibility for his emotions. And therefore I felt so bad because I was creating unhelpful thinking. When I realized this, I felt so much better. I could really feel a burden fall off of me, because obviously I still want to learn how to deal with, even if I am wrong and even if I did something wrong, you know, that's okay too, and I'll learn and I'll grow and I don't need to beat myself up for it. But in this situation, even though that might have been a situation where it was unhelpful to speak up, it was still like I wasn't the one who catastrophized it. It was Dad and his thinking style, because he was affected by it, so it was something in him. So that's something I learned as well, which is like, okay, am I the one catastrophizing this? Ask yourself, like, am I the one who has unhelpful thinking going on right now? Am I making this a big deal? Or is maybe something going on in the other person? You know, what thinking styles are they currently using? So yeah, that helped me immensely to be like, it's not my responsibility for the way he feels. It's not my fault for the way he feels. And that was so helpful. And then for most of the day, which was Saturday, I was just sitting on the couch watching like comfort movies and shows, and that helped me so much to just be kind to myself, be gentle to myself, relax, kind of recover from this. Because I was catastrophizing. I was like, oh my god, what if this is going to happen more in the future now, and then everything's going to be bad and horrible again, and I'm not going to be able to handle it and never going to get better, and the Thrive program, what if I'll give up on it on some point and stuff. So yeah. And then another thing I realized at the end of the day, I was working a lot on the Thrive program that day as well, watching certain videos, reading in the manual, asking myself questions all the time. And another thing I noticed very strongly when I thought about certain thinking styles that are going on in my mind, which are the reason for why I experience something in a bad way, or whatever way, catastrophic way, I noticed that I had the negative thinking style going on very strongly, actually. So it's not that a situation happens and then you think about it in a catastrophic way and then, you know, you think about it in black and white. It's the fact that you already have those thinking styles going on, and then you perceive the situation in that way. So if you have the catastrophic thinking style, then you are likely to see almost everything, or to whatever degree you have the thinking style, you'll see situations to that degree of catastrophic, for example, or of black and white. And therefore, the situation seems catastrophic or black and white or very negative. So that helped me a lot in the past few days as well. Always asking myself, okay, what thinking style is going on right now? And I'd see like, okay, I'm catastrophizing, so therefore I feel like the situation is bad, even though the actual situation might not be bad at all, or might not be as bad as I'm making it. So that helped me so much to regain perspective. Or when I was brooding about, oh, this and this could happen, and then I'd be like, look, I have the brooding thinking style going on, so that's why I feel powerless. That's why I feel like the situation is bad, not because the actual situation is bad, you know? So yeah, that's why then a couple days ago, I made my daily focus to focus on unhelpful thinking styles. And then whenever I'd notice one, I'd be like, okay, that's why I'm feeling bad right now, not because of the actual situation. And then I'd ask myself, okay, so first of all, whenever there's a negative thought or emotion, what thinking style is it? then would I feel the same without it? How else can this be viewed? How else can the situation be viewed? For example, if I didn't have the thinking style, or just in general, how else can this be viewed? How would someone else view this? How would a thriving person view this? And then, am I more or less powerful with the thinking style? And am I more or less powerful without the thinking style? And yes, if I didn't have, for example, the negative thinking style, I'd feel much more powerful. So that's what I realized strongly that evening. I was like, wow, I'm seeing everything in a very negative way right now, because I'm thinking about it like in a negative way. I'm thinking about what bad things could happen and what did I do wrong, and what are the consequences and stuff like that. I was thinking about everything in a negative way, also about life in general and about what I'm currently doing and so on. And yeah, and then I was like, is that actually helpful? And does that make me feel powerful? I was like, no, it makes me feel like I can't achieve things. It makes me feel like there's no hope and it's useless. And then I don't even try to kind of help myself. And instead I was like, if I would see things in a positive way, I would feel like I can achieve things, I can make things happen, I can grow and learn. I would feel way more powerful and I would feel capable of handling things. So immediately, if you think in a positive, more powerful way, you immediately feel like you can handle this situation because you're positive. The only reason you couldn't handle it is because you were so negative, because you were brooding about it, because you were catastrophizing it. The only reason you couldn't handle it is because of those thinking styles. If you were happy and positive and powerful and not brooding, not catastrophizing, you'd feel like you can handle this, you can grow from it, like it's okay. It wouldn't destroy you. And that was so amazing. As you can see, I'm smiling. So that was so amazing. It helped me so much. And now I'm keeping that going. I'm trying to turn the negatives into positives, and seeing how can I see this in a positive way? How can I say this in a positive way? Or I'm like, if I see anything negative, I'm like, is this a powerful or a powerless thought or emotion? And then if I believe it's true, which I did, and that's what keeps me stuck as well. If I believe it's true and like that's the ultimate truth, it's like, okay, why am I believing this? Why am I not letting go of it? What is this showing about me? How can I say the same thing but in a more powerful way? So like asking yourself these sort of questions. And I've also been keeping the noticing unhelpful thinking styles going. So every time I feel sort of down, I'm like, okay, what is the thinking style right now? What am I using which therefore is making me feel so bad and down? Which is useless and powerless and not helpful. So then the only thing in my mind which I believed and therefore was like, no, I need these thinking styles, is when I was like, okay, but if I would let go of all the thinking styles, wouldn't I then in certain situations be like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter, I'm just gonna go and kiss all loads of random people? I'm scared to lose control over myself, basically. I'm scared that if I would let go of all unhelpful thinking styles and not care about other people's judgments anymore, so if I would be in control of my social anxiety now and build my self-esteem, I'd be like, but wouldn't that mean I would just go off and do random things which I don't want myself to do right now? Because then, I'd not care and everything's fine. But I'm like, yeah, that's kind of stupid thought, because if you're thriving, that means you have perspective. It means you know what isn't good, you know what is good for you, and it means that you're just not insecure anymore, but it doesn't mean that now you're going to go off, smoke and drink because you know that's not helpful. But at the same time, that's really something I've been struggling with, and that's why I'm not really letting go of certain thinking styles or beliefs inside myself. Like my desire for control, for example, was quite strong the past few days because I was trying to control myself to like be good and be this and that and not desire this and that or whatever, so that, you know, I wouldn't turn into someone I don't want to be. Because that's been a fear, like, yeah, forever kind of. That's why I built up this uncomfortable feeling and this control issue. And I don't know if I had OCD, I guess that's OCD or whatever, I don't know, but my depression and stuff like that, it all happened because I was scared to turn into someone I didn't want to be. And so I'm scared that if I let go of the control over myself, if I completely accept myself, love myself, that then I'll just go off and do crazy stuff, which right now I don't want myself to do. Right now I'm basically controlling myself not to do. I'm like, would I still choose not to do that if I were thriving? You know? So that's kind of what I've been struggling with the past few days, and that's what's keeping me in a negative state. But then I also looked at my past and the experiences that I always bring up and brood about when thinking about how I want to control myself and stuff. And I'm always like, you know, if I let go of control and I'm thriving, would I then do these sort of things again? So I have certain situations in my mind from my past where I'm like, I don't want myself to be like that. I don't, you know, that's where I built up the control after those experiences, after I had done those things. So I'm now afraid that at some point I'll see that, oh, the experiences weren't even so bad and that therefore I'm going to do that again. And the thing that I actually helped myself with in the past few days was then looking at these experiences that I always said to myself were so bad and I regretted them and I hated myself for them and I controlled myself for them. And then I looked at them and I was like, were they actually that bad? Were they actually, you know, as bad as I always made them? And in the past I would have always been like, yes, it is, because I didn't want to be that person. I was scared to be judged by others, especially by my parents. I was always trying to live up to their standards. But then I looked at the situations, I was like, no, they weren't that bad. Anyone who was involved, you know, agreed to it. You know, it was never like I did anything to another person, and it was never like I did anything that in that moment I didn't actually want to do. Like in that moment I actually agreed to it, but then later on I regretted it and I beat myself up for it because I was scared of being judged by my parents. I was scared I was now someone I can't recognize, and scared I was a completely different person to who I wanted to be. I wanted to be a good person all the time. And now I'm thinking like, okay, if I would not care about my parents' judgments anymore and not care about being a good person anymore, would that mean then, you know, I'm going to go off and do these sort of things and just be like, oh, they aren't actually that bad? So I can see like they weren't actually that bad. The situations which I always told myself were so horrible and they make me a horrible person, now I'm like, they're actually not that bad. But I would still not do it again. But I'm like, would I not do it again because I'm still controlling myself, or because I would just choose not to do it anymore? So I don't see, that's something I just don't know, but I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm getting closer. Like you can see in this video, I'm getting closer. Basically that's the fear that's been in my mind, and therefore whenever like Mario, my friend, points out something about myself or about my past that's like weird and or he didn't do or whatever, I'd immediately be like, oh no, that's so bad, oh my god, that's so bad. But then I asked myself, is it really that bad? And I was like, no, everyone was part of it. Everyone who was part of it agreed to it. And I was a child, first of all. And second of all, you know, afterwards, I decided not to do it anymore because I regretted it for, like, you know, because of judgment. So I don't know, if I wasn't scared of people's judgments, maybe then I wouldn't have regretted it at all, wouldn't have built up control over myself. But I hope I still would choose to be a kind person. Like, I'm scared to then start to choose to be an evil person or to just, you know, go around and do stupid stuff. But again, if you're thriving, you have perspective. So you know what's really bad and what isn't bad, and you know, what you want and stuff. But I'm scared that I'll want these things that I don't want myself to want right now. So yeah, but I'll keep going and figure it out, and this video really helped me to regain perspective actually quite a lot. I'm in a good mood right now, and of course there's still certain thoughts that are like doubting and scared and being like, no, I can't let go of control, and thoughts that were like, no, I need to stop the Thrive program because it's bringing me closer to stop controlling myself. And then I'm like, no, because then I'll just be anyone, and you know, I'll just do random stuff and think that that's okay and stuff like that. But no, I think I'll still choose to be a kind person. I'll just see that, you know, the things I did in the past weren't actually as bad as I always made them. Still, like, I hope once I don't control myself anymore, I hope that then, you know, I'll still choose not to do those sort of stuff, or at least only do it when I know I'm sure about it and I want to and I have perspective about it, not just going with instinct and because I really want to right now, compulsive. Like, I hope I'm not going to be compulsive. But again, when I'm thriving, I'm not compulsive. I know things clearly, I see things clearly. So yeah, okay. Anyway, the fear is still not fully gone, but it's all about regaining perspective and being kind to yourself. Today, for example, my focus is seeing the difference between being kind to yourself and being unkind. Which one is more helpful? Which one actually helps you, gets you further? Which one feels better? Which one helps you smile and thrive? And I've been noticing, since I'm being a bit kinder to myself today, I've been noticing that things feel much less like a burden. The only reason I would stop it is if, like, I'm thinking, oh yeah, but now I'm basically just excusing myself for everything I'm doing. But like, no, if I do something wrong or, you know, I am unkind, I can always be like, look, I can learn from that and say sorry to the person or grow next time. And when I'm thriving, I'd know what is unkind and what isn't unkind, and things that are kind and things that are unhelpful and helpful. Like, you know, I'd have perspective fully. So yeah. Okay, I feel like there was much more I wanted to say, but for some reason I feel like this might be a good ending for this video, even though, yeah, there was definitely more that happened. There was definitely more experiences I could talk about, but Saturday was basically the high point, or the low point really, where I gathered so many different thoughts, and I was like, oh, I'm so incapable, I'm not strong enough, I'm not handling this at all, like, I'm pulling myself down and I'm not doing good at all. And obviously that made me feel bad, of course. But that was really my low point. I was like, oh my god, this, you know, this is bad and stuff. But I regained perspective. I felt a little better every day. And today I'm again feeling a bit better, but again, there, like I said already, there is still some unhelpful thoughts that are going on, but I'm regaining perspective on them more and more. And I'll keep going like always and do things that help me, do things that bring me joy, that help me regain perspective. Yeah, so let's keep going. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and until the next time.